Welcome, everybody, to this episode of the Ninth Grade Experience podcast. I'm your host, Chris Dutchko. The goal of the Ninth Grade Experience is to give you the story of the ninth grade students here at Emmaus High School and beyond through people who live it daily, the students and the staff. We will attempt to touch on the real issues and stories that ninth grade students face in order to prepare them to know that ninth grade counts. And we are excited to have today's episode of the podcast here. It's a special episode featuring several members of the Lehigh Valley Phantoms. So if you have been listening to our previous episodes, we have been advertising the EHS Class of 2025 night at the Lehigh Valley Phantoms on February 19th. So Mrs. Kaunitz has been putting out ads for those in the school bulletin and other things as well, some flyers around the school. So we've been promoting that, and the podcast, we reached out and wanted to see if we can get some of the Lehigh Valley Phantoms to come on the podcast. And it was a little bit difficult because they're professional athletes and we had to work around their schedule. But thanks to the work of Amy Keller and Bob Rotruck, we were able to line up two Phantoms players in order to come on the podcast. Now it's going to be a unique opportunity because I'm not interviewing them. You're going to hear from the actual Lehigh Valley Phantoms announcer, Bob Rotruck, who does do the interviews. But our two players that we have on the podcast today are Linus Sandin and Garrett Metcalf, and they both bring unique ninth grade experiences that they're going to talk about on the show as they ramp up to potentially becoming professional athletes, or as they became professional athletes playing for the Phantoms. Linus is originally from Sweden. He's been 25 years old and he's been playing professional hockey for a while. He signed with the Phantoms, and recently he was just called up to play with the Philadelphia Flyers on January 25th. The Flyers are the team that the Phantoms feed into. He was able to play against the New York Islanders. He played about 7 minutes, 13 shifts, and it was his NHL debut. He had a shot on goal. He's also doing well for the Phantoms too. In 16 games, he has 6 goals and 5 assists. So Linus tells about his story about being a high school student in Sweden and playing hockey. And our second person is newer to the Phantoms. His name is Garrett Metcalf. He is a goalie. He's originally from Utah. He was drafted by the Anaheim Ducks in 2015. He was playing in the ECHL with the Utah Grizzlies and signed a contract with the Phantoms in the end of December as a tryout contract, a professional tryout contract. He's played 3 games with the Phantoms so far since he's been here. He's won 2 and tied 1, giving up fewer than 3 goals a game. So Garrett is off to a good start here with the Lehigh Valley Phantoms. But it's really a unique opportunity to hear from 2 professional athletes and what their ninth grade experience was like, how they prepared themselves to become professional athletes, and what it took to reach a level that a lot of people, when they're younger, they want to be professional athletes. So hopefully some of our students out there that are interested in doing that are going to listen up to this episode and see what it takes to reach such high levels. So big thanks to Amy from the Lehigh Valley Phantoms Media Relations Department, and Bob Rotruck, who is the announcer for the Phantoms, who did the interviews, for taking on this responsibility and helping to get these set up. So we appreciate all the efforts that they went through. If you are interested in any of the previous editions of the podcast, you can always go to ninthgradeexperience.com. It's where we have all of our videos and where we have the links to be able to subscribe and follow on all the podcast apps like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, all those great places. You can always search up the Ninth Grade Experience on YouTube. We're getting close to 6,000 total views. So again, that's awesome. We're getting close to that 10,000 total number. So maybe after the next couple episodes, we'll be talking about that. So that would be awesome. Make sure you follow, tell a friend, suggest the podcast to other people. So we always appreciate that word of mouth as we're trying to build up the viewership. And in the next couple of weeks, we'll be talking about some interesting things here on the show. We're going to be talking about Mental Health Awareness Month here in February at the high school. We're also going to be leading into Shave for the Brave in the beginning of March. So that's a great event that we hold here at the high school each year. So looking forward to some cool episodes of the podcast coming up. But once again, thanks to Amy and to Bob for setting all this up today. And we're really excited to bring you some perspectives on ninth grade from some Lehigh Valley Phantoms. So thanks a lot. Make sure you get those tickets for the game to support the class of 2025. And hopefully we're talking to some of the Phantoms there, Amy and Bob, to have them come back on in March to kind of talk to us about their careers as we do some career readiness month stuff as well too. So lots of great things coming up on the podcast. So thanks a lot, and enjoy the interviews with Linus and Garrett Metcalf.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's Zoom podcast, and we're glad that you could join us. I'm Bob Rotruck, the announcer for the Lehigh Valley Phantoms. We have a lot of Americans and Canadians on our team. We also have a lot of Europeans, some players from Sweden and Russia and other countries. Well, this is Linus Sandin, and he's from Sweden, and I thought it'd be a nice idea to kind of get his thoughts on the differences from Sweden to American culture. You know, there are some changes and differences in there. Linus, I want to just hear from you from when you were in ninth grade, and I don't even know if we call it ninth grade there, when you were in school and at 14 years old and obviously playing a lot of hockey. But first question, is it ninth grade? Is that what we call it in Sweden?
When you're 14, it's eighth grade in Sweden.
Okay, so you're 1 year off.
Yeah.
Tell me about when you were in eighth grade, I guess, and you're 14 years old and you're playing hockey and you're going to school and balancing your life with everything you have going on then.
I mean, from sixth grade to ninth grade, we had hockey in school. Like, we were practicing 2 times a week during school time. And the team I was playing on back then, we went to school together. So we had a lot of fun. We were doing pretty much everything together. And as I said, play hockey, went to school together. So we did pretty much everything together back then. So it was a lot of fun. It was no problem at all to go to school. We had a lot of fun, as I said. So it was a fun time.
For you, you're probably getting a pretty good idea that you're getting pretty good at this hockey thing, and that you might have a future in it too.
I guess it started like from young age. I was always like, I'm gonna be a professional hockey player. That was my main goal. I always loved to play hockey, and I still do. I mean, that's the best thing in the world. So in very young age, I was like focused very much on hockey, and school was a little second hand, but as I said, I didn't mind school at all. So I was focused on hockey.
We have had a lot of Swedish players on the Phantoms through my time with them through the years, and we have 4 guys from Sweden on the Phantoms now. And I've talked with all of them, and the guys that we've had before, guys named Oscar Lindblom and Robert Haig, and I know that you know some of those guys. What impresses me, and what I think is maybe surprising for the students, is how good your English is. And this is the case for all of the players from Sweden. And that's not the case for other countries. If we get a player from Finland, his English a lot of times is not going to be very good, and he can't do an interview. But all the guys from Sweden can. And I think it'd be interesting to learn exactly, when do you start learning English in school, and how much do you dedicate to your English classes there? Because it's obvious that you guys have a lot of English in your schools in Sweden.
Yeah, we do. I think we start like learning English in second grade or something like that when we're 7 years old. Start with the basics like colors, animals, counting and stuff like that. So, I mean, we did it 2 times a week, I think. And then you are in sixth grade, I think, you have English like 3 times a week. So you start learning English pretty young age.
When I was in school, and mostly in junior high or high school, later on, and I took foreign language, and I mean, I tried, but overall I hated it because I was really bad at it. I was trying to learn some Spanish or some French. How is it for everyone in Sweden? Because it just amazes me how well all of you Swedes, it seems to my experience, are able to speak English. Do you guys like, oh, you got more English classes? This is hard. This is a tough language. It's so different from Swedish, obviously.
Yeah, it's a big difference. But I mean, I was like when we had English, I was more. This is good to know. Uh, you have to be good at English because you can speak it in the whole world. Swedish is just in Sweden, so English class was yeah, you got to do it and do the best you can, and be awake during those lessons and class. So I mean, I didn't mind English at all, to be honest. I was when I was back in school. I mean, I was a little shy when it come to English to speak in front of other people and stuff like that. But when you get older and like eighth, ninth grade, it's just you just have to accept it and do it. I mean, that's how you develop and getting better.
Being awake in the class, that would have been a concept. I should have tried that. Did you take any other languages, or is it just Swedish and English?
I was doing Spanish for a week, I think, and then I quit that and went to the hockey rink instead. So that probably not the best you can do, but I did that instead.
We had a player a few years ago from Denmark, a big guy, 6'7", Oliver Lordson from Denmark, and he could speak 5 languages, including
Wow,
Swedish. I think his wife now, or his fiance, she was from Sweden. I just don't know how people can do it. It just blows me away. And all you guys that do it so well. Okay, I'm going to go back as well to some of the other 8th grade aspects, or when you were 14 years old. One of the questions that they're asking, or that they want me to ask, is about what did you miss at that age in school when you were so involved in hockey? But it doesn't sound like you missed very much at all. When did you leave school, or did you leave school to go and pursue hockey? Was that more like at 16, 17 years old?
Yeah, you go like the school from first grade until ninth grade, and then you study for another 3 years. And those 3 years, I went up north to play hockey for Modo, and that you practice 3 times a week, and then go to school like usual. So I mean, we have a lot of hockey like in school back home. So I mean, I think that helps. I mean, you can still focus on the sport you want to do and still go to school. So I think that helps that you can stay focused on both, like your in my case hockey and stay focused in school.
When did you first get a chance to come to the United States? I mean, you've been here playing for the Phantoms for a couple of seasons, and your younger brother plays with Toronto and the Toronto Maple Leafs and Toronto Marlies. I don't know if you had come over here very much before you actually joined the Phantoms and started playing.
No, I went over to watch my brother when he was in the OHL, playing for the Greyhounds. I went over for 2 weeks just to watch him in the playoffs, and then I've been on vacation in Florida, New York. So nothing more than that before I came over.
What are some of the biggest differences between the cultures or the people,
I mean,
or your observations there?
I mean, first of all, the country, it's so big. I mean, back home you can pretty much walk everywhere. Like it's a lot of sidewalks. As I say, you can walk everywhere. Go to supermarket, grocery store, whatever. Here, you need a car. I can tell you that you need a car. And then all the people are so friendly here. I mean, it's always someone who come up, talk to you, and that's not the case in Sweden. It's more like it's you, maybe your friend, don't talk to other people. Um, so that's a thing you pick up. I mean, start to be a little bit more friendly when you come back home, and when you see people, just hey, what's up, stuff like that, instead of just you. So that's I think that's the biggest like difference.
Okay. Last questions here. What advice would you have for athletes that are watching this video now that are at 14 years old, and maybe some are thinking that they might have a chance to chase the dream of playing professionally in whatever sport they're in someday? What advice would you give them?
I mean, first of all, it's have fun. I mean, if you don't have fun, you're not gonna make it. I mean, that's the main key, I would say. Have fun, be patient. I mean, if you work hard, your time will come. I promise that. I mean, I work hard my whole life, and I mean, my biggest dream was to come to North America and play, and it didn't happen until I was 24. So I still work hard and have fun every day, and that's when I reach my goal, and I still want to reach my goal to play in the NHL one day.
Playing professionally in Sweden, though, that's pretty good also. And you were doing very well over there, but you really, kind of reached that turning point, I guess, when you were 23, 24 years old, and that might be a little bit later than for some other players. But even then, it's not too late. And the North American teams were noticing you, and eventually, you decided to sign with the Philadelphia Flyers. But I know you had other teams that were interested. Whereas before you didn't have that opportunity to come to North America. Then it all the work kind of paying off, and you finally get this chance to come over here at 24 years old. That's that's a little later than it is for some other guys, and so everyone has kind of a different path.
Exactly. That's just have fun every day and work hard, and your time will come.
Linus, thank you for sharing your experiences of learning English and differences between Sweden and the United States from your perspective and all of your insights here. I enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
This is Garrett Metcalf. He's one of our goalies. He's actually a fairly new player, and he joined us a couple weeks ago, and we're going to kind of get to know him and about his ninth grade experience before he was a player also. So Garrett, let's just start with talking about that. You're in ninth grade, you're in Salt Lake City, right? And you're going to school, but you're playing hockey. What was that experience like for you at 14 years old and in the ninth grade?
Yeah, no, it was a good one. As I remember, as you mentioned, I was back home in Salt Lake City, Utah. And unfortunately at that time, and even still now, Utah's not really a hockey hotbed. I played for the Utah Regulators, and we claimed to be a AAA team, but I would say we were a better AA team. We played a lot of AAA tournaments and games, and good for me. I faced a lot of shots, but we didn't have a whole lot of success. But in hindsight, it was great for my development and a good experience that I'm grateful for today.
You grew up in a hockey family. Your dad was a referee and was covering a lot of the professional games there in Salt Lake City in the old International Hockey League and the Salt Lake Golden Eagles. And you must have a lot of memories of going to games there too.
Yeah, of course. I don't remember going to the old Salt Palace, but my dad talks about it all the time. Still loves the game today. And, I'm fortunate enough that I get to play and he gets to watch. So it's cool to have someone that's, so informative or has a lot of information on the game. And we talk about it daily. And it was great. I remember growing up going to the Maverick Center where the Utah Grizzlies play, which is where I was before here. So it was crazy because I grew up going there with my older brother, Skylar, to watch my dad referee hockey games. And I actually ended up playing my very first pro hockey game back home in Utah in the same building I grew up going to. So it came full circle, and it was pretty special for me and my family.
Usually when fans go to a game, they're cheering for one team or the other. You don't have many people in the stands that are cheering for the referee, but that would have been you. You were cheering for the ref because he was your dad.
Yeah, it was funny because there's a lot of, even today, there's a lot of fans that like to heckle the referees. And, I always took his side and always thought that people were a little harsh on him, but I wish I was a little bit older because looking back on it now, it's pretty funny.
Does this give you a different perspective when you're out there as a player? Because, I see goalies get upset at referees on different calls as well, but you have that different perspective, I guess.
Yeah, no, I do. And I'm fortunate enough that I kind of have part of my dad's personality, which is just kind of a calm demeanor that helps me a lot in that. But I think sometimes I give refs the benefit of the doubt, but I definitely get in there and will jaw with them a little bit too if I don't think that they made the right call.
Okay, going back to your ninth grade year, and you're playing all of this hockey, I don't know if you really knew at that time that maybe you could pursue the professional dream. What was your mindset at that time? Were you kind of thinking, hey, maybe I could be good enough to play for the Utah Grizzlies someday and that type of stuff?
Yeah, I don't think professional was really in my realm at that point in time. The next step for me would have been to go out of state and play on a better AAA team and get experience that way. and hopefully get more eyes. And that's what I did. I ended up leaving home when I was 15 years old. But it's funny though, when you take me back to my, ninth grade, 14 years old, I was actually a bigger kid. And I don't mean that height wise, like I was fat, chubby. I'm sure if you found pictures and looked back on it, you probably wouldn't say that that kid was going to play collegiate or professional hockey. But it was actually, that was probably one of the biggest years for me. My goalie coach at the time, Mark Sample, told me, he's like, listen, like, you could be really good at this, but you have to take the off ice stuff more seriously. You have to start working out, get in the gym, get your conditioning up, make sure you're eating right. And I did. I think it helped that I was maturing at that time too. So the pounds kind of shed off me a little bit, but I think it was also a little bit, it had to do with my dedication to the game. And I grew up around it and have always been so passionate about it, whether that was watching or playing. So that definitely helped.
When you're that focused on hockey, and obviously you're with a travel team, at such a young age, at 14 years old, do you feel like there's some parts in school that you maybe missed out in? And then, of course, you moved away at 15. I mean, you're definitely missing out on some things. What kind of sticks out in your mind about the things that you would have liked to have been a part of?
Yeah, no, definitely. Going into high school, before my freshman year, I played football as well. And I had a lot of really good buddies that I went to high school with that played on the football team. And I had to decide if I wanted to play football or hockey because they kind of overlapped. And when you get to that stage at, either football or hockey, you have to kind of dedicate yourself to that one sport, unfortunately. And gratefully, I decided to play hockey. My football friends weren't too happy about it, but I think it's ended up working out.
What's it like moving away from home at 15 years old?
Yeah, it's crazy. My brother actually moved away from home when he was like 12 or 13. And we're a little bit different. So our experiences were definitely different. But, it was just for me, like I talk about it all the time now. It was the only thing that I knew. That was my life. And, maybe that first year I got a little bit homesick. I didn't have my parents around as much. I didn't have my brother around, but that was kind of my whole upbringing. My brother played travel hockey, so my dad and my brother were gone all the time. So it was just me and my mom. So for me, I think the transition wasn't too hard, other than the fact that I wasn't living at home. I wouldn't say that I didn't have a close family by any means. We were all very close, but we just weren't around, I guess, like a regular family was, where, you'd come home and have a family dinner. It was like we'd come home and I'd be going to practice, or my brother had practice, or what it was. So it was definitely tough, but like I mentioned, 15, 16, 17, like that was my life, and I didn't think about it any other way. And I just learned to enjoy it, and just kept sticking with it.
What was 15 years old? Was that Madison, Wisconsin, or was that still a year away?
Oh, that was 2 years away. So it's been a long journey.
So where were you when you went at 15?
I went to Omaha, Nebraska, and it was kind of a tough thing because I ended up leaving halfway through the year. So I think if anything, that made it harder on me. My coach at the time kind of ran it like a junior hockey program, and we were still young, maturing mentally, not only physically. So I think that was the hardest part for me. And then I found a home, luckily, in Colorado Springs, Colorado, around Thanksgiving with the Colorado Rampage. And I still give credit to my coaches, Andrew Sherman and Pat Bingham, to this day, for helping develop my mental side and my mental toughness.
I mean, we're talking with kids that are practically that age. If you can imagine moving away to Nebraska or Colorado, or eventually you ended up in Wisconsin, pretty far away from home. I can't imagine doing that. And you guys in hockey do that all the time. Last questions for you here. What advice do you have for athletes that might be watching this right now, who are in ninth grade or at 14 years old? What advice do you give to them currently, especially maybe kids that are thinking that they might have a chance of pursuing the dream of being a professional athlete?
Yeah, I think you kind of have that. You got to have that in the rear view mirror. You don't want to focus on it too hard. You want to focus on the day to day and putting in the work now. I think it might be a cliche, but the work that we put in now we'll eventually see down the line. And I think the hardest part about sports is, or in life, when someone puts in work, you kind of want to see results right away, and that's not going to happen. So the biggest thing and the biggest advice I can say is just focus day to day on developing, not only as an athlete, but more as an individual and as a person. As you get to those higher ranks, it matters just as much how good of an athlete you are, but the personal aspect comes into play too, because there's plenty of other kids out there that are going to be just as talented, athletic, you name it, strong, whatever you want to say. But if you're not a good person and a good teammate, coachable, it's going to hinder your ability to make it to the next level.
Not just coachable, but you talked about the mental toughness and some guys that helped you with that. That's probably also what puts you over the hump to achieve the level of success that you've gotten to now here at the American Hockey League.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's one of the biggest things. And I don't think that my journey or path has been any more difficult than anybody else's. And, there's a lot of people that go through hard times, but just learning to thrive in that adversity and the high pressure moments, I think, is what helped get me here. If you look at my pro resume, I haven't really played a whole lot. And I wouldn't say that's for my lack of skill. I would just say that's more of lack of opportunity. And when you get to this level, you have draft picks and you have guys that are on NHL, AHL contracts that are playing in the same league as you are. And a lot of times they get, every opportunity. So you just have to, like I said, work day to day and focus on getting better and develop so that when you do get your opportunity, you're ready for it.
Well, I think these are some pretty good words of advice, Garrett. And I've enjoyed watching you play and kind of bust your way in onto this Phantoms team once you've been given this opportunity. Thank you so much for your insights, and thanks for taking the time to talk with us and talk with the kids here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Bob.